I'm a big fan of any attempt to rehabilitate and rewild grizzly bears back into their natural habitat, because they start as very sad, tragic stories. Often it's a mother gets shot or hit by a vehicle. Cubs are found, they're orphaned, they're brought to the shelter.
If we can rewild them, what we want to know is what is the long-term survival of these bears?
It's been assumed that rewilded orphan grizzly bear cubs would not survive without a mother to feed and protect them.
There's no science behind that rewilded grizzly bears have survived out there. There's also no proof they haven't.
Now, a groundbreaking scientific study following 5 unique grizzly cubs is testing whether they can survive a second chance at life in the wild.
Naturally, we would expect some of these bears to die.
Ah!
Oh, Christ.
I'm not gonna lie, it's a long shot that we're even gonna find these bears.
After decades of overhunting and habitat loss, many of North America's grizzly bear populations are under threat. But a one-of-a-kind project may help turn things around for grizzly bears. In Smithers, British Columbia, the Northern Lights Wildlife Shelter runs North America's only grizzly rewilding program.
The regulations right now are that if an orphan cub becomes available, it should go to the shelter and be rehabilitated. They come in at various stages as young cubs and then stay with us until the following year.
The shelter has just taken in 5 orphaned grizzly cubs, all from British Columbia's central coast.
Well, we have triplets, 2 females and a male. Raven is the leader there. Very relaxed, very aware of what's going on, but kind of the queen of the mountain. Isu is a little bit more setback, lets Raven go first and has a look. But she joins in and both of them play and they're very active. Arthur is always hiding behind the girls and is always nervous and is the first one to run away when something happens. And then we have twins, 2 females. Cedar is the leader there. And then Muin is very nervous. It doesn't join into the play games very much either. To see how intelligent these animals are, to be able to watch them and see them mature and come into their own personalities, it's just priceless. And then in June, we will then return them to the areas where they came from and release them back to the wild.
Over the past 14 years, Angelica and Peter Langen have rewilded 24 grizzly yearlings, all fitted with GPS tracking collars. But none of these collars stayed on the bears past their first hibernation.
We are still lacking the information of long-term survival. The majority of to them.
Before their grizzly program can be accepted and adopted elsewhere, the Langens need scientific proof that their rewilded grizzlies are surviving. So the shelter partnered with the Grizzly Bear Foundation. It helped fund the first ever long-term study on the survival of rewilded grizzly bears.
It's like listening to a radio station. They each have their own frequency.
And they hired an independent scientist to oversee the research and track the bears.
The main part of the study is survival. Do these bears survive long term? But then also we want to know, are they getting into conflicts? Will they approach people? We don't know. And that's what I'm trying to look at.
Dr. Lana Charniello has spent 30 years tracking and studying wild grizzly bears, and will now follow the lives of Raven, Arthur, Isa, Cedar, and Muin.
These bears are now research bears. It's very unfortunate for them that they lost their mothers, but I'm just happy that we were handed 5 bears that we can follow and look at.
Out of those 5 cubs, we have 4 females, which is just super exciting because females in this program are just the gold. If we can follow them long enough, They tell us the most of how well those bears do out there because we can prove that they are integrating enough to reproduce.
If we're fortunate enough to keep these girls until they breed, that would be the definition of success. It's almost like we were handed a beautiful experimental design setup.
Pretty dark in there.
And I'm ecstatic. I'm really, really pleased.
Oh, baby.
She's pretty pissed.
The 5 research cubs must undergo a thorough health check.
Now I got a good shot.
Got her.
So first, each one is tranquilized.
That's 5 minutes. She's starting to feel it a bit.
The pulse was 100, the respiration was 40. Awesome. And then we just note this injury here. She's got a cut. The main thing I wanted is what condition are these bears coming in at? Okay, let's just flip her shoulder underneath her on her side, please. It was important we get this information right now before things start changing so that we can look at that and have that as a baseline.
She's got crooked teeth. She needs braces.
So for example, looking at their teeth, does that really contribute to survival? Well, I guess if they have a ton of broken teeth, then when we release them, of course, that would affect their ability to eat. Nothing's broken and everything looks really good. So the intake data is very important on where they're coming in at.
Microchip.
So while we have them under, my philosophy is take everything.
They did blood samples, skin samples, and hair samples, and DNA stuff. And
Feel back there, 24.
it's all about data when you're doing scientific stuff. I'm learning that more and more.
We want all of their metrics. Are they emaciated? Are they fat? And for most every species except humans, being fat is good. We want that. That really helps them in their survival. Remember, red's right. Mm-hmm. The main thing I wanted is body condition. So I did body mass index. It's looking at the percent body fat.
Very invasive, it looked to me. Now they're poking them there, and now they're doing this. Well, not my thing. But it's important for the study.
123.6.
If we want to stand up to scrutiny out there, we need the data in order to be credible.
Awesome job, team.
Oh, that was better. Hey, we're getting slick. I can say now, because we've just finished the processing of the 5, we've got 5 healthy cubs of the year that are in good condition.
Staying through the winter and into the spring, the cubs have now been in human care for 7 months. But to keep human contact to a minimum, they've been looked after by one primary caretaker who sets clear boundaries. Kim Grouse has over 10 years' experience caring for the shelter's black bears, but it's her first time overseeing their orphaned grizzly bears.
I'm not going in with them. I feed them in a separate area. They go in, I close the slider, and then I clean their outside area and then bring in enrichment. I love putting enrichment in. It's good entertainment for them, and it's all natural. Every time we put new enrichment in, it's like a party for them. They get all excited and play with it and rolling around in it and getting that smell all over their fur. It's really rewarding to see.
They have really thrived and they're looking fantastic. In a few days, we're gonna set them free. We chose to release them as yearlings, which is a year early than what they would leave the mother, to minimize the handling of them and the habituation concern.
Because orphan grizzly cubs have to be released so young, it's been assumed that they could not survive in the wild. But these yearlings have one big advantage.
I would say they're 250, 300 pounds. And then just with the good food over the winter, just, you know, they just grow.
Right.
We don't hibernate the grizzly bears. We feed them through the winter, and they're actually being released at the size of a 2-year-old.
The shelter accelerates their grizzlies' growth so that by release time, their yearlings match the size of young grizzlies when they start weaning away from their mothers.
In the wild, the mother bear has to teach the young ones to stay away from the other bears because they potentially would predate on them. We can't teach them to stay away from another bear or from a cougar. And therefore, by not hibernating them over the winter, we give them that extra edge in size to defend themselves when they go out into the wild.
But it's yet to be proven whether their extra size gives them enough of an edge to survive on their own.
It's hard to know which one to be aiming at. You're afraid you're going to be missing something. I've got a pretty long-standing relationship with the shelter. I am the bear photographer. So documenting this journey for these 5 bears as they get rewilded and released back into the Bella Coola area.
John Marriott has been advocating for a similar rewilding program in his home province, Alberta.
The grizzly bear is a threatened species in Alberta. Why are we not trying this kind of thing?
In Alberta, like elsewhere in North America, there are no grizzly rehab shelters.
The alternatives to rehab are pretty grim, to be honest. One is a bullet to the head. You know, you get a young little cub and it's orphaned, and the conservation officer has to shoot it whether they want to or not.
3 Alberta grizzly bear cubs now call the Vancouver Zoo home.
The other alternative is shipping them off to a zoo, basically destined to a life of confinement, pacing back and forth behind bars.
Within the scientific community itself, there's a lot of controversy about rewilding. There's a number of people that just don't want to see cubs of the year killed. If we can rewild them, then, you know, they want us to rewild them. Then there's a handful of people that are like, you know, this is a waste of time and a waste of resources and a waste of money. I see both sides of those. I understand where the emotions are coming from. I understand where the people that are saying our money can be better spent on conservation is from.
I've come up to the Northern Lights Wildlife Shelter this spring because I'm trying to learn as much as I can about the cubs right now, see what was unique and different between each bear, have some idea of what behavior they might exhibit when they're out in the wild. It'll not only help me identify them, but also help me figure out what they're going to do next. Right now we've got 1 scratching on posts, 2 playing with a stick. I think it's really critical to see these bears as individuals because they are individuals. They have all these different personality traits that they exhibit. And I really appreciate that these bears actually have names. So instead of just it being bear M163, you know, male 163, it's Arthur.
Arthur is still trying to prove himself. You can see him strutting and doing the cowboy walk. Trying to impress everybody.
He's definitely more brave than he was. He's always first in line to check stuff out.
I wanted to get a look at their personalities to see who's the first one to the feed tub, who's in control of this pack, and who's the most timid. And later on, how's that going to play out in their survival?
Isa's pretty timid. She's always in the background.
She's always one of the last ones to come in the feeding area.
But it's the same with Mew and like this, the underdog too. But she hangs on Cedar a lot. Cedar is always in the water. And then she does that, like her head just above the water, and you can see her feeling the ground. And then, oh yeah. The excitement in the face, like finds an old bone or a perfect rock, and then she just plays with it and tosses it out. So that's Raven over there. She's like the clown of the group. She's always playing. She moves different than the other bears. She runs out and swings her head around. She really entices the rest to play along. Once there's play going on, it's contagious.
Tomorrow, Kim will say her goodbyes to Raven, Arthur, Isa, Cedar, and Mewen as they start their journey back into the wild.
I have no idea what's ahead of them, but I have high hopes for them.
They have shown us over the last few weeks that they are really ready to go. They've been really trying to find a way out of the enclosure. So at this point, for me, I'm happy to see them go because that's where they want to be and where they should be.
The big day has come for the 5 grizzly yearlings to leave the shelter and begin their journey back to the wild.
We want to make sure that we teach them that other humans are not acceptable. And so we tranquilize them for release and so on. That's an additional negative experience with other humans. And that helps then out there in the wild that they're not approaching other people.
Here we go. Processing bears is by far my least favorite.
So which one do you want me to do first? That one.
It's so invasive. It's hard on the animals. The biggest concern I have is that we need to tranquilize them a lot and in a short period of time, multiple times. And it's a concern whenever you're tranquilizing anything. There can always be things that accidentally go wrong. But it's the only way I feel we can get the data that's required for the study.
The release team again weigh
231.1.
and measure the bears
142.5.
and collect DNA samples. But ultimately, the study's critical long-term survival data will be gathered from each bear's tracking collar.
Too loose. All right.
So it's crucial that the collars are carefully fitted.
It's a very tricky balance in order to have that collar fit just right. Oh, hey, we did it. It's on now and it's gonna stay on. It's not gonna fall off and slip off because it gets too big, you know, but I still have a lot more growing to do. Hey, buddy.
It's tight. It's not too tight.
You okay with that?
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
You're okay with that?
Because otherwise he's going to lose it.
Okay. I need to figure out what happens to them. All good? Whether they survive or not. And it doesn't matter if they survive or not, but having a known fate at the end is something that really does matter. So, am I expecting all 5 bears to survive? Probably not. I wouldn't expect all 5 wild bears that I was monitoring to survive.
I did my job, and now it's up to the bears and researchers who are following them to see how they're doing. I feel really proud of perfectly healthy, smart babies.
The shelter's grizzly bears must be released within 50 kilometers of where they were orphaned. So they are driven over 1,000 kilometers to a staging area outside of Bella Coola, British Columbia. They've been heavily resedated to ensure they don't awaken during their flight and become a danger to themselves or the helicopter crew.
We were releasing them as family groups together, and the triplets were first. So put the 2 females on one pallet, and then Arthur had his own.
We started by getting the first set of bears put into the nets, and then 3 helicopters took off with the triplets and off into the backcountry. An operation like this, especially with 5 bears, is a daunting task.
There's so much hinging on what happens to these 5 grizzly bear cubs. I look at these bears as being so key to what might happen elsewhere where they're trying to get populations up. Having success in rewilding, data that shows these bears can survive to 2, 3, 5 years and enter the main population would be just critical. We started following Isa and Raven in. We finally ended up descending into a valley that had several big rushing rivers coming into it. Hey, it looks pretty good right there. It's far from people, it's very difficult to access with lush green estuaries everywhere. Perfect bear habitat.
Now we've been watching for the last several hours as they're coming out of their medications and taking stock of where they are and all the new smells that they have around them.
Isa, we've seen her with the drone and she doesn't appear to be moving, but she did get a double dose, so we're just hoping she's still knocked out. Oh, Arthur's up.
Oh, he's walking.
Still woozy from sedatives, Arthur is first up, but goes directly towards the river.
He was stumbling about and he started coming towards us. We had a river between us and him.
What we didn't expect is that Arthur would go to the water quite so quickly.
Oh boy, is he wobbly. You know, he was so disoriented and groggy and out of it. We were really quite worried. It was very, very stressful. Ah! Yes! Ah! Arthur, get out of there.
Arthur decided that he was ready for a swim when he really wasn't.
Yes! Ah! Yes! And then we didn't know if he'd be able to survive that. Oh boy, we get swept out there. And we actually had to get a helicopter to come over. You know, we just had to make as much noise as we could. Coming out now. There he goes. That's a good spot. Come on. Come on, get up there. Get up. There we go.
Yes.
Arthur heads back towards siblings Raven and Isa. Now it's time for the twins, Cedar and Muin, to be released.
We put Cedar and Muin on their pallets and then did their last health checks. So they're immobilized, but their vitals were good.
And then the day took just a terrible, terrible turn. Not at all what I expected, that something terrible was going to happen.
Cedar and Muin are flown to the same location where the triplets were just released.
We saw the helicopter come in with the second set of bears. We thought everything was okay.
We didn't know anything was wrong until we landed.
They've left the helicopters. Then there's a big stump blocking where they dumped the bears.
The COs were investigating and they found that one was already deceased.
Cedar is unloaded, but her sibling Muin is left in the sling.
Chopper coming in.
That's why Catherine went back. She was slinging a bear out.
Oh no. So either Cedar or...
Cedar or Muin.
Oh, Christ.
The loss of that fifth bear is definitely going to weigh on everybody. Of course, Peter, Angelica, and Kim are going to feel that loss most deeply.
It's obviously hard to lose a bear. A lot's put into these animals. You know, I mean, I don't mean to sound callous, but what I was really concerned about is that it was one of the females.
Muin is taken away so Lana can examine her and determine the cause of her death.
The results show that the shift in the load allowed her sister to roll on top of her, and that asphyxiated her.
Two hours after the triplets' release, Raven is up and on the move.
Oh, saw Isa.
Did you?
Yeah, head just popped up.
Now, if she can find her feet, then at least for the triplets, things are looking good. Arthur is fairly well oriented, considering all the drugs.
And I know we still have 4 out there, and this still can be a success, but it just wasn't how we expected the day to go. But we actually had a really spectacular moment. Raven, for the first time, saw Arthur. She actually huffed and tried to scare him away. So obviously didn't initially recognize him, and then very quickly got over it, and they approached each other, touched noses in this loving sort of brother-sister, you know, hey, I know you. For me, the coolest thing to see next spring would be when one of these cubs emerges out of the den, and to be able to go, whoa, look at that, Cedar made it.
Okay, so these are all of their locations since release.
4 months after their release, the rewilded grizzlies' location plots revealed the unexpected.
That's where Arthur is now, right? And these are his locations from release to present. And then we stick on Raven. We can see that Raven and Arthur are always together. Siblings never stay together is what I was told over and over and over again. We stick Isa on. These 3 are certainly proving that to be wrong. You have the 3 lines all together, and all together, and then they're all together. So now we put Cedar on. She moves around. She does the most moving of all of them. So the locations are going to be somewhere in here, right?
What's the name of the bears in that area?
Cedar?
Yeah.
Yes.
Lana and Kim are heading back to the release area to check on how the 4 rewilded grizzlies are surviving.
You're going to 52.03972 north.
Aside from getting visuals on them, I want to know what they're eating and how much they're eating.
This is the first time that I've been out here after they got released, so hopefully see how my kids are doing.
Lana and Kim track the triplets' prior GPS locations to explore areas where the bears have been foraging.
There's the helicopter here, and then we checked out all this area here. So this is all the young forbs, like in the avalanche chute area. What I do is I look at where locations for each bear are clustering. All of their locations are clustering, a big cluster of them right out in here, and that is all super thick blueberry, huckleberry, and mountain ash. Then what I'm interested in is, are they feeding on a broad range of food? I want to make sure there's nothing big, like a critical food, that they're missing.
Is this fresh in the last few days?
From nibbled sedge grass and wild crab apples
You can see they're clearly capitalizing on them.
to dug up rice root and skunk cabbage, everything indicates the rewilded triplets were foraging like wild grizzly bears.
The rice root?
But that's what's left over after she ate the rest of it.
Yeah, there's so much good food around here, and they're finding it.
But to really see how the bears are surviving, Lana needs to get eyes on them.
My number 1 thing is to see them and make sure those collars are not grown into their neck.
So our next job, we're going to go find Isa.
Lana zeroes in on the signal from Isa's collar.
We found out that Isa had split from Raven and Arthur.
Though Isa has spent most of her time with Arthur and Raven, she's also prone to wandering off on her own.
I could see her neck fully. The collar was not too tight.
She looked really good. No sign of injuries, no limping.
Further upriver, Lana detects both Arthur and Raven's frequencies, but can't see them from the air.
I was worried that they might not be in good shape, that they lost a lot of weight, maybe they got injured. I think all the worries like every caretaker has when you let them go in the wild.
They're literally right back.
And they're moving right, but not fast.
Come on, children. See them? They're beautiful. The first sights we saw from Arthur and Raven, they look amazing. All happy and chubby and healthy kids.
Raven, the smaller and darker bear, is focused on the river, while her big brother Arthur keeps a lookout.
When Raven was hunting for fish, Arthur kept looking around and see if there was no bigger bear coming their way. It was really cool to see Big Brother watching over his little sister. We were really holding our breath and hoping that he would catch a salmon because that would be the ultimate reward. Yeah, she tried really hard. She aimed for effort, but unfortunately while we were there, she didn't catch any.
The next day, Kim spots Raven and Arthur again, this time at the mouth of the river.
They had their nose down and they were sniffing. They clearly picked up a scent of something. Then all of a sudden, Raven stops and she picked up a spawned out salmon. It was great to see that they're not just eating berries and plants, but they also get their proteins. Shortly after, Arthur found a fish too. And he, of course, devoured it all. And he thought he could snag a piece of Raven's fish. But she wasn't having it. She's like, I worked hard for this and this is mine. It's really good to see that they're not starving and panicking to look for food. They can feed themselves really well. They went to all the good feeding areas and nobody taught them that. They figured it out themselves. Instinct is amazing.
Lastly, Lana and Kim check on Cedar, who spent the past few months on her own in the high alpine.
When we closed in, she started running. She looked in decent health, but we only had a really short window to see her, and she was out of sight pretty fast. We had pretty high hopes for Cedar because it's high up, far away from possible interactions with people. We thought she had a safe spot there.
Well, then the next news we got from Cedar really wasn't good.
2 weeks later, Cedar suddenly descended from her high alpine habitat down to the coast, moving northwards.
Cedar makes this really big movement, almost in a straight line, and then eventually swam across the arm towards Bella Coola.
For me, it was nerve-wracking. I constantly looked on the map and see her movement. She ended up right smack middle of town. I was like, oh, this is not good.
She had showed up basically in exactly the same area where she was orphaned when her mom was shot as a problem bear.
Cedar homed in on a property where salmon remains had been left out.
The conservation officers tried really hard to deter her and chase her out of the area. She didn't really want to go.
She wasn't aggressive or attacking anybody, but she just wouldn't leave either because this was easy feeding, and she just stood her ground. So the conservation officers, they ended up having to shoot her and kill her. I get very angry at those people who cannot manage their attractants, and the bears always pay the price.
Now just the triplets, Raven, Arthur, and Isa, survive. Like other grizzlies in the area, they'll need to dig a den to ride out winter.
There's always a concern that they might not make it, a question if they know how to make it then that keeps them dry and safe throughout the winter, because no mom really taught them that.
In early winter, Lana receives Isa and Raven's last GPS locations very close to one another, suggesting they may be denning together. But Arthur's last location was far from his siblings, and his collar has alerted Lana that it hasn't moved throughout the winter.
There's Arthur. On mortality mode. So it's telling me that it's been laying motionless for at least 12 hours to go on this mode. I'm pretty sure he's just dropped it.
To determine whether Arthur is alive and denning with Isa and Raven, outside the grizzly den, motion-detecting cameras are set up to film the bears if they emerge from hibernation.
The biggest thrill would definitely be to see them emerge from their dens. And to see their dens, to check out their dens, and what they constructed.
2 months later, Lana and field assistant Taylor Green approach the den site.
Look, we are so close here. So we want to go here, and then we switch angles. Coming back now because we had to wait until we knew that the bears had left the den, so that we're not going to disturb them. We definitely do not want to disturb them. For Isa, I can't hear it. We got nothing.
Okay.
Lana can't detect Isa, so she tries Raven's collar.
I'm getting absolutely nothing from Raven. I know now that it's safe to go here. They should not be here. The den is right there.
Wow, it's not that big.
No.
Compared to what I would have thought for 3 bears.
Well, they're young, and they hadn't had the chance of being with Mom. Oh, you're gonna see how far back it goes. We gotta put our headlamps on, and we're gonna crawl in there. Because you can kind of see the depression here. There must have been 2 bears here, here, and here.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much 50.
Okay, height of the chamber is 50 inches.
Yeah, it's really high for a bear den. Good, there's lots of bedding material. This is all hemlock boughs. So that forms like a mattress. It is totally dry in there. For the fact that they're rewild bears, they were born in a den, they never got a chance for a mom to make another den for them. They did a good attempt. They tried. Not the worst. Not the best, but not the worst.
And they built this one from scratch.
And they built it from scratch. Yeah, good on them.
Back at the shelter, Kim and the Langens get a first look at the den camera images.
Is that the den? That's Raven. And that's Isa coming out now. Where's Arthur?
That's Arthur, right? Yeah, Asa is the one that doesn't have a collar. He looks great.
Mm-hmm.
So all 3 bears emerged out of the den. Well, that was awesome.
Looks like Arthur's still taking care of his sisters.
I was super excited to see my children are doing good out there.
I mean, they're not skinny, right? No. You would see it.
By surviving through winter, the rewilded triplets have passed a major hurdle, captured for the first time on camera.
This was really, really important because it's been documented that they went through hibernation.
Raven looks like she's checking out the camera.
Hey, bears!
Less than 2 weeks after the bears emerged from hibernation, Lana gets a phone alert.
We are in the mountains outside of Bella Coola, and what brought me here was a text I received that Raven's collar was on mortality. Hey, right this way. It doesn't necessarily mean that the bear is dead at all. It just means that the collar itself hasn't moved for whatever reason for 12 hours. Okay, so I can hear it 50 here.
I smell something. Dead animal or something.
Yeah, I smell something dead now too, Taylor. So let's go closer. Like, look at all this hair. There's more there. There's the hair there, there's the hair there. There's clumps of it everywhere. There, there.
Lana and Taylor have come across a trail of bear fur.
Let's follow it. Oh. It's a dead bear right there, I see it. Yep, that's it, I see it, it's a dead bear.
The condition of her remains makes it clear
She's been hammered by another bear.
that Raven was likely preyed upon by an adult bear.
Bears eat each other. And one of the things that's typical of a bear kill is that they invert the hide. They peel back, it's like peeling open a banana. The hide is actually turned inside out. That is typical bear. Well, Raven, you fed someone. I was really happy for these bears. They passed the first level of success. But, you know, if they die, then that's data too. And so when I found Raven, like, I didn't feel sad. I'm sorry, I just sort of felt like, okay, this was her fate. I'm really happy that we were able to find out her fate. It's information that we can now use to put to a better cause. Like, the study is on survival and what we think happened. And I think we piece this together as absolutely best we can. I think we're done.
Now there's one more collar to locate.
Right down here.
Just before Arthur hibernated, his collar broke apart.
Yeah, brought it off.
And recently, Isa's collar has stopped transmitting.
I'm getting absolutely nothing from Isa.
There's now no remote means for Lana to track Isa and Arthur, the last two surviving bears in her grizzly rewilding study.
Where we're at is confusing right now. Are we going to try to somehow recollar them and get them back online? Or are we gonna let them go?
It just looked like a chunk of log until its head lifted. My goal coming here is trying to see if Arthur or Isa are still surviving. So that's really key to knowing if this rehab has continued to be successful. If we're lucky enough to spot either Arthur or Isa, I will just be thrilled to see them doing something wild, you know, eating sedge grass, grabbing some barnacles or some mussels, anything like that, just some natural behavior. Just want to lay eyes on them and be able to go, oh my gosh, I saw them.
When grizzlies move into the estuaries in the spring, it's a prime time for boat-based bear viewing.
We've been going 10, 15 kilometers back and forth and back and forth. No sign of Arthur, Isa. Scanning all these different estuaries and sedge flats.
Because spring has just passed, John may have come a little too late.
Hey, bear. We came out here hoping that the bears were still going to be eating sedge grass in the estuary. Hey, bear. We found fresh salmon berries all along the river and in the forest. Well, that's not good. Salmon berries are totally ripe. So that means that the bears are probably going to be in here eating salmon berries instead of out in the estuary where we can see them eating sedge grass. That's not good for our chances. I'm not gonna lie, it's a long shot that we're even gonna find these bears.
At dawn the next day, John heads out on one last search.
We headed towards the first estuary, took a look, and there was nothing. And then sort of just slumped down and was sort of half paying attention. Oh my gosh, is that him? Okay, he's up on the grass. Ah, he's running away from us. Dang. You know, I was pretty sure it's Arthur just from color alone. Like, he's such a distinct-looking bear. Oh, just saw him again there. is up on the log. Oh, look at that. Okay, I can clearly see his ear tag. Arthur looked amazing. Beautiful size, he had a bit of plumpness to him. He's obviously doing a good job of being a bear. Just picked up a dead bird of some kind. As we came in closer, there were a couple of times where he looked out at us, and we're still pretty far away, 250 meters. And he would look out and he'd watch us for a little while. He's so occupied. Let's see if we can creep in just a bit more. As we crept in a bit closer, where he slowly just decided, you know what, I've had enough of you humans. And he immediately turned and started walking away. He then started to run, just like a wild bear would. And to me, that was a really great sign to see that he's acting exactly like a bear should be acting.
When I saw the photo of Asa, I literally screamed with joy. My husband came running and was all concerned what had happened. It was such a good feeling to see him there and looking good, having gained weight from the last time that we saw him. Seeing Arthur after this length of time, it's a big step in the program and gives it more weight to be considered by others.
Let's move her over. You grab a hand.
The rewilding team prepare to release the next batch of orphaned yearlings, building on the lessons learned from Ewan, Cedar, Raven, Isa, and Arthur.
Oh, I think the study is hugely helpful. Not only has it given us some strong data, but it also gives us in the scientific community a footprint that others can work on and go forward from. Long-term survival is still the one that we don't know about, and that we still have to work on.
It would be really nice to have long-term data. That's what the project was set up to get. So I would love to be able to recall it, Arthur and Isa, so that we can monitor them until their end survival point. I know it seems heartless and a bit emotionless, but I really just want to get to the truth of whether rewilding works or not. Then we can look at how to tweak it and make it better, or we can look at the fact that, okay, we're doing this because as humans it makes us feel good.
You got a piece of hair in your tongue.
Like, take it and wrap it under. Like, there we go. Tomorrow you're free.
After 2 years of this rewilding project, we're still learning with every bear we put out there. And even the ones that don't make it, it will only give us more motivation to do better next time and see what we can do to make them more successful out there.
The incident with Muon last year that cost her life was very upsetting to all of us, and we immediately set about to find different ways of releasing the bears safely.
The yearlings are now tranquilized just once at the shelter, and then when they awake, are transported in newly designed crates.
So the process now is they're on the truck, driving to wherever we meet the helicopter. They have hooks on them, they can be slung to the release location. They're fully awake while we're transporting them, so that there's no threat to their health. They're right there, bright and alert, and ready to go out into the world. We still know that these bears face numerous challenges out there. We still know that some of them, or a percentage of them, will not make it out there. But it's an incredible feeling to set a healthy animal free and giving them that chance. at least they get this chance. Without the program, they wouldn't have it at all.
Great.
Yeah.
Top notch.